Hello, welcome to another episode of Tigers, blah, blah, blah. The Hull City podcast with me, Luke Flanagan, and my co-host, Richard Walker, is here.
I am here.
Hello.
Sunday morning. Coming down.
Indeed. So we just shifted it about a bit, but we're going to talk about various different things, but all to do with the last three games, aren't we? So
yeah, bumper episode. In content, if not time.
Hopefully, we won't ramble on too long, but we will cover everything we need to do. Few thanks before we start. I'll just go through our Patreons. I've ordered something for our Patreons this week. It comes this week, Rich. So
right,
I'll keep it at that, and we'll leave it as a surprise for all these guys. But we've got Lewis Elliott, Danny Nicol, Ewan Jones, Adam Brown, Alex O'Neill, Mike Hassan, Aaron Bell, and Rich Fleming is back. Also,
couldn't stay away, could he?
Couldn't stay away. I was chatting as well with Rich. I think he'd like to come on and have a chat with us at some point, maybe over the Christmas period. So
always nice, yeah.
Always good to have
a.
Hull is now at Hull City Stats. I think he's changed his name, but on their Twitter. But he's doing all sorts of scouting stuff, which is really interesting for us to chat about.
Yeah, it'd be good to hear from him. Maybe a slightly more studied voice than ours.
Probably, he knows what he's talking about. Which one of us two idiots? So thanks to all those guys. Also, thanks to Danny Johnson, Hull City Ladies. Their football is back, but behind closed doors, unfortunately for them. It's 13th of December at Hayworth Park, which is a week today, and they play against Loughborough Foxes next week. So good luck to them, and I'm sure we'll hear some more stuff around the Hull City Ladies over the next couple of weeks if they're starting to play and get good results again. Obviously, they've been shut down for the last 4 weeks, haven't they? So,
yeah, I mean, how is that sustainable?
I'm not particularly sure it is, and we did mention this last week, but not getting funding for Tier 3 and 4, but Tier 1 and 2 ladies clubs do get funding. It seems a little bit backward to me, because you're not telling me Man United and Man City need the government money, but Hull City don't.
I suppose it depends how closely they are affiliated to their men's clubs, doesn't it? I don't know what the nature of their relationships are, but I know that there are women's clubs who are like City themselves. They're completely
they're run as a separate
entities.
Business. Yeah, they're nothing to do with the men's team. But Man City very much use the same facilities all the time. But anyway, we'll see what comes of that. So good luck to them for next week. And lastly, FanHub _football. You should follow on Twitter. We're part of that movement, which is the #FansFirst movement. So we'll get on to the good, I think, first, Rich. And you were going to start.
Yeah, I was going to start with Greg Doherty.
Oh, yes.
I think after his goal yesterday, most people would have been expecting that, but he was already prominent in my mind for one of the goods this week anyway, but just because of the nature of his performance against Doncaster.
Oh, he was excellent.
He was. And it was the same Greg Doherty that we'd seen in the early part of the season.
Yeah.
I think he'd maybe faded a little bit away from the high standard that he had set. So it was good to see him back in on Wednesday night, after the FA Cup game. And just doing what we'd seen that he did best, box to box. He's working the press to win the ball back from Donny, especially in the first half, was excellent.
Yeah.
And then he carried that good form into yesterday's game eventually. I think everybody was guilty of a little bit of a slow start and perhaps being caught off guard by Oxford's intensity in their press.
I mean, that was never going to be sustained into the second half because that's not what they normally do, is it?
Well, how many teams do you watch that do play with such an aggressive press who are able to keep it up for 90 minutes? There are very, very few teams can do it that way.
I think, was when Klopp went into Liverpool, he had a similar situation where he wanted his players to do something they didn't have the fitness for, and it takes a while to get that in, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They were always going to falter, but particularly in that first half, it wasn't very good, was it, to say the least?
No, I mean, we began to get a foothold in it after about 30, 35 minutes.
Yeah, well, that's when they start blowing, though, isn't it? Because there's that much intensity from the play. We were just like, fuck this, I can't. What do we do? What do we do?
There has to be a moment, sort of a lull in the game, and I think with a couple of significant injuries in the first half that sort of allowed us to take stock of what was going on a little bit. and kind of regroup and get to grips with it. But within that, Doherty was one of the key players within that kind of recovery, if recovery is the right word. He was involved in 3 of the key moments of the game in an attacking sense.
Yeah.
He obviously scored the equaliser, which was an excellent finish. I enjoyed that one a lot on his weak foot.
Yeah.
Having seen some of the goals that he scored at this level for Shrewsbury, he does have a bit of a thing for the spectacular. Likes a pop from range, and that one really paid off for him. And I know he did the press yesterday, and he did the press after the Doncaster game as well, I think, because he played so well.
Yeah.
And they said in both interviews that the goal was coming, or it had been coming, obviously, after the Oxford game, because, of course, he'd scored. But it did feel like it was coming for him.
We did the post against Doncaster.
Yes, he did, yeah.
It was such a good effort. It was so unlucky, because he had to kind of wrap his foot back around it. So it wasn't an easy chance to get there. And I just thought it was going to go in off the post. But obviously, and then they last-ditch defending all over the shop won it from that, because I think one of their players sprawled and blocked McGuinness's shot, and then the keeper saved Wilkes' shot. It was first half, that wasn't it? So that was when, I think on another day, Doherty goes in. It was just inches difference, wasn't it?
Yeah. But his performance did merit it.
Oh, he deserved the goal against Donny. It was just a shame he didn't get it there. But
yeah, the funny thing with the Donny game was, although Doherty stood out in my mind, I think that was possibly because he'd had that little spell out of the team, and maybe his form had dipped below the standard that he'd set for himself early on in the season.
Yeah,
I thought the midfield 3 was excellent. Anyway, all 3 of them, especially first half. Donny's tactical switch second half, where they put 4 across midfield, and it allowed them to get at our fullbacks with greater ease. Didn't help the midfield 3, but I thought they did their jobs really well in the first half. They were all over them like a rash.
I mean, I think one of the important things about Doherty is, I think he played pretty much every game, didn't he, at the start of the season? And I think that kind of took its toll on him.
Well, in his style, it would do, because he'll get through a lot of running.
Yeah, and he'd have been knackered. That's why McCann took him out for 2 or 3 games. And I think it's good to see that, because even when he wasn't playing, not even in the squad, he was retweeting the official City thing, going, "Get in, boys," and all that sort of stuff. So you knew that he would get his chance again. He wasn't one that was going to kick up a fuss because he wasn't in the team or anything like that. So it's good to see that, but then to come back in straight away like that makes such an impression. Because, arguably, I don't know who got man of the match against Donny, but I definitely think he deserved it if he didn't get it. I presume he did get it, though, didn't he?
I don't know. I never pay any attention to it.
I don't either, really, because
it usually just goes with the goal scorer, doesn't it?
It often does. Wilkes has got them over the last few weeks. It always seems to be Wilkes because he's the danger man or whatever. But I think, he wasn't as good yesterday, was he? But I did.
No. Was it? I think it was Baz Cooper in the Mail said that he thought Wilkes was one of our more consistent threats. And although he got forward and got himself in decent position, his use of the ball was horrendous.
His final ball reminded me a lot of the Wilkes of last season, where he did all the hard work, and then because he's rubbed out his game this year. He's scored a lot, and he's been prolific really compared to what he was. And even if he's not scoring, he's assisting. I think it was just a bit of an off game, but you're going to get those anyway. So there's nothing to worry about too much. I was going to talk about substitutions for my good. Okay. I had this particularly. Both games really. I didn't want to really speak about the FA Cup game because.
No, well, I think without getting on a tangent too much, I didn't want to talk too much about it just because it was everything that I hate about early round cup games. Yeah. It was a much changed team, absolutely no rhythm to the way that we played, and there was nothing to the game. No. I think, to be fair to Stevenage, they played very, very well, and having looked at the way that they played prior to the game, they probably did better than we expected. But certainly the number of changes and the kind of fresh feel to the team didn't help us at all. No.
The one good thing was that, Eve scored a penalty, and I'm sure we'll get onto penalties later on, but it wasn't something I wanted to dwell on really. Obviously we're out of the competition. If people still want a cup competition, we've got the Papa John's Mega Trophy this week, so we can talk about that next episode.
I mean, to be fair, the draw for the third round of the FA Cup was about as exciting as the next round of the Papa John's Trophy. So
yeah, exactly.
No harm done.
we'd have got Swansea, wouldn't we? If we'd have
Swansea,
like not asked.
Yeah, possibly the attendance would have been lower for the third round of the Cup this time against Swansea than it was for the last third round FA Cup game we had against Swansea, where the fans boycotted.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The KC Stadium only marginally.
I think it was 3,000, wasn't there, or something ridiculous.
I can't remember. I know it was low.
So yeah, moving away from cup competitions, I thought McCann did well to bring on Eves when he did, because I thought McGuinness's goal. Can we just take a moment to appreciate that against Donny?
I enjoyed that a great deal.
It reminded me of like the day-to-day when you had Alan Partridge doing commentary and thinking you just need to put underneath it. He's like, he's got a foot like a traction engine. Absolutely tanked it, didn't he? It was brilliant.
Goal!
Yeah, goal! Great stuff. But that was brilliant. And obviously he was tiring towards the end. Again, McGuinness has played an awful lot of football. International as well. He's played for Northern Ireland, hasn't he? So bringing Eves on at the right time, and then I was really delighted that it's paid off, because I think it was Smallwood who had the shot.
It was Smallwood,
and he just did what a good striker should be doing, and the defense. He was moving as soon as the keeper went towards it, and the defender just stood there.
Yeah, it's good to see that as well. He's had his critics, and I think there's been a little bit of a kind of pushback on that on social media. Whether or not that was inspired by your kind of Churchillian defence of him, I don't know.
Doubt it.
But there's certainly been a pushback on the Tom Eves is shite bandwagon.
Definitely, I think a lot of people are kind of defending him now, and I know Baz Cooper did a piece as well where he was saying, I thought he wasn't at he wasn't covering the game against Donny, but he'd made a tweet at Baz and said something like, delighted for Tom Eves because he gets too much stick when he doesn't deserve it, sort of thing. So I thought, people will listen to him more than they'll listen to us two idiots, but I
would imagine so. He's got a wider
audience. He's definitely got a wider audience, more expertise than us two, but still.
Yeah.
So that I thought he made the right change at the right time, because within 3 minutes of coming on, he'd scored, hadn't he? And that's...
You say right change at the right time. I thought he got a little bit lucky with it. It's not every time you're going to bring on a striker and they will score the winner, within minutes of coming on. I felt like McCann had perhaps reverted to one of his failings from last season in not reading a game particularly well against Doncaster.
You mean the fact that they changed to the 4 across the middle?
Donny changed shape and we didn't pick up on it at all. We did very little. All right, you've got at times Lewis Potter tucking in deep to protect his fullback, but in terms of
that's where their goal came from, was the cross out wide from Sims, wasn't it?
Yes.
Sims originally looked dangerous in the first few minutes and then kind of faded, but they celebrated. You see them on the sideline. They celebrated like they just won the World Cup, because that was their only shot on target.
It was coming though. To be fair to them, I think the goal was coming. And in general play, you could sense that there was an anxiety about the way we were defending.
It was literally
and they were definitely growing in belief.
It was because they were able to hold it at 1-0 because of our ineffective finishing, I think.
Yeah, and we've spoken about that before. We desperately need to improve on that.
Yeah, we do.
Not every game you're going to be able to pull it out the bag like we did with Eves coming on to score the winner. We really need to improve on that.
And then I think
you can't leave teams that you are so obviously superior to hanging around in games with 1-0 leads. We could have been 4-0 up by half time, and Donny wouldn't have had a complaint.
No.
I mean, maybe they would. Darren Moore evidently felt that they should have won the game, but
where have we had that before?
Yeah. Every bloody
We're
week.
on to the same old thing all the time, aren't we? But I thought that he also, because he made changes at half time yesterday against Oxford, didn't he?
Well, he had to again.
But
he had to.
Do we need to talk a little bit about? Do we go on to the injuries?
Well, no. I mean, I think we've not really said enough about the substitute being a good yet. Because I don't want to take it away from him. He's obviously freshened things up across the front line against Doncaster,
Yeah.
and then I thought bringing Lewis Potter on yesterday had a big effect on our threat going
I
forward.
definitely thought we looked
he was one of the liveliest.
much sharper going forward with Lewis Potter back on the pitch.
We did, and I know he spoke to David Burns after the game. I don't know if you've listened to his.
I did. I listened to part of it because actually it was a very different. Some of the questions that I thought he dealt with them quite well, to be honest.
Yeah, he did. He did. He's dealing with all of his media engagements a lot better.
It's almost
season,
like
it's an easy thing to do, I guess, isn't it? When you're top of the league,
very much so. But I do think he's probably been a little bit less. I don't know what the word is that you'd go for it. He's more calculated in his answers because I think previously he was very prickly and
he's less chippy.
Yeah.
But I think the questions that he's being asked aren't quite as
well. No, I mean you're never going to get that. You know, after Millwall and Luton defeats at home and then the Wigan defeat. I mean, what do you say after all that anyway? It's always going to be bad kind of relationships anyway, isn't it? Well, yeah. I mean, but you know,
I guess that's what they were looking for out of him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But this season, the team it's a better team for me anyway.
No, definitely. Yeah.
Even if you were to put this team in the Championship at the end of last season, I still think we'd look a better outfit than we did when we finished last season. So it's a lot easier for him to kind any difficult questions, he can bat it away because he's got the cushion of the result to kind of say, well, that's doing my talking for me at the moment. Whatever I say here is secondary to what's going on the pitch. Whereas when you're losing, and it's like what the manager says after a horrible performance becomes everything, doesn't it? It's all you've got to hold on to. That's right.
And I mean, the other thing is on another day, I think right at the end, I think Lewis Potter's header goes in. Because it was a difficult chance because he still outjumped somebody who's 6'5".
Yeah, well, McCann said that himself, didn't he? Because Bernsey asked him should he have scored, and he said, "Well, it's maybe a little bit too high for him. He's got a good spring."
Reminded me a little bit of the way he sprung against Charlton that time where we got that last minute equaliser. Obviously, that one went in and was never credited to him because it went off the back of the keeper's head. But I do think on another day,
technical own goal rather than
that's it. I mean, it doesn't happen without Lewis Potter heading it towards goal, so it should be. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. But I do think that I mean, he's been out.
That'd be Lewis Potter's goal in ice hockey. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
It has to be with attacking.
Your
intent.
Second favourite sport, it would have counted there, so it should count in your favourite one as well. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else I was going to say, particularly on the change. I just thought he made the right decisions, and whether it's luck that's got him by or whether it's good tactical changes, I think that we saved the point yesterday after a very, very poor first half.
Yeah, I mean, it felt that way a little bit, but having reflected on the game, I think it felt that way because the intensity with which Oxford came out sort of set the tone for it, and it kind of sets your mental state for the game as well, if you know what I mean. So you're already a little bit annoyed at how poorly we played first 30 minutes, that you don't fully appreciate really that we were the dominant side for the final 55 minutes of the game.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, the other thing is, I don't know if you want to move on to your bad, but it feels like because I was going to choose referees for my bad, you see.
Yeah, well, we'll speak about that first because I think that's more.
It's more linked to the Oxford game, certainly.
Yeah.
I mean, what?
I mean, both. Donny game as well.
It wasn't. But I do think the Oxford one was far worse. I mean, what is that? That's all I have to say. What is that? I mean,
it's League One refereeing.
But honestly, I mean, we've had bad referees this year, haven't we? But that.
Yeah. Well, we had this guy for the Gillingham game as well, didn't we? And he wasn't
good then, but I mean, that takes the piss, doesn't it? Quite frankly.
His decision, I mean, he had two poor decisions involving Greg Docherty, but his decision to pull the play back after Honeyman had put him in one-on-one from 8 yards.
God, and then he comes back and you're like, where's the advantage, man?
Yeah, but he did that a couple of times, didn't play the advantage.
Yeah.
And he apparently his explanation to Docherty was that he didn't see him running through.
Well,
and it's like you wonder
oh God,
what communications the referees are getting. I thought it was interesting that he said he didn't see him running through, and then Docherty makes a point in his interview. Well, where's the harm in just seeing what happens for a second?
You can bring it back 5-6 seconds later if you wanted to.
And I appreciate at the top level of the game they're being told something different because they've got VAR to contend with.
Yes,
So letting the play
yes,
go does not
because
necessarily any
then they can
harm to
check
it.
it on the monitor. They did that yesterday with the Leeds
Yeah,
game, not the Leeds game, the West Ham
yeah,
game with Bowen,
yeah.
because he
They
was
did. Yeah.
offside and they did the right thing in that situation. But we don't have that
I
kind
think
of bollocks.
I think they had a quick look at Chelsea's second as well,
I
didn't
think
they?
they did,
Yesterday in
yeah,
the Leeds game
yeah, I think they did.
for a foul. But you wonder what the referees at a lower level are being told in terms of letting play develop after a foul, because it wasn't, it's not the type of foul where the referee needs to immediately get involved because there was
No,
malice
it
to
wasn't a
it and it's going to
two-footer,
kick off
or
if he doesn't come
yeah,
in and
it wasn't a spicy one, was
yeah.
it? It was like it was a
So
foul, but let it go for a bit and come back.
yeah, just see what happens. It's almost that he's too eager to assert himself or insert himself into the game where it wasn't particularly needed at that moment.
No,
Um, and what he's looking at if he's saying that he didn't see him running through, it's like, but Honeyman has played the ball immediately
surely
after
your
the
eyes
foul has
track the
taken
ball
place.
also as well to see what's going to go happen next. It just showed me that he's completely inept as a referee. Really, that's all it showed to me.
What did you think of the penalty decision or lack of a decision?
I mean, I always think though, people think that because we're biased, because we're City fans, but I'm
Well, it's a fair point. That's a fair point, I guess.
guaranteed anywhere else I've seen that is going to be a pen.
Yeah, because he's on the stretch from behind, isn't he?
So I would say 9 out of 10 times it's given. It just happened to be the time where we had the shit referee, though it wasn't. It did. It feels a little bit. I don't know. That the referees all.
I'm watching that decision now to bring the play back for the Doherty one. The foul takes place as the header from Honeyman is running through to Doherty. It's not like foul and then the ball breaks to Honeyman and then he nods Doherty through. The foul is off the ball as it's going through to Doherty.
Yeah.
It's horrendous, referee. And his positioning, all right, he's on the halfway line, but he is looking right down the middle of it.
He saw it.
Doherty is right next to the centre-back who's made the foul. His runner's gone in wrong side of the centre-back who fouls Lewis Potter.
Yeah.
It's awful referee.
It really is. It's just horrendous.
And McCann's point that had we got the goal at that point in the game, we would have gone on to win it, I think is a fair one.
Yeah, I agree. Because the impetus is with us then. And we go, right, come on then, boys. We can do it now. The belief's back. I mean, I saw a brilliant thing from Tigers Tube, who were particularly complimentary of us earlier on our episodes, so thanks for that. But the Tigers Tube player who does loads of old City goals and stuff, there's a mocked up picture that says refmatch.com. And there's a picture of the referee from yesterday. It says, Andy, 43, 7 miles away. I enjoy spending Saturday afternoons outdoors and with people regardless of whether they like me or not. I love the sound of a whistle. I hate following advantage or allowing advantage. Absolutely brilliant. So thanks to Tigers Tube player for that.
I wish someone had nicked his whistle like in Father Time.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck off, you fucking bastard.
Right. I mean, the other thing about the referee, he wasn't as bad against Doncaster, but he was still fairly horrendous.
Well, we had a shout for a penalty.
We did have a shout for a penalty, and I don't understand why that wasn't given, because he booked him for simulation, did he not?
Yeah.
That's the second time that's happened recently.
He's definitely played for it. I'll say that.
He has, but
he's definitely played for it.
I think players like Wilkes always are going to. And it annoys me the amount of inconsistency there is where that would be given in a Shrewsbury Crewe game, probably. But because it's City and we're seen as big time, I don't know, but it's probably the wrong word, but I just think people love to hate us currently. It really does seem to be like, and then the other thing was Josh McGuinness. I was fearful that McGuinness was going to get sent off against Donny because he went into the box so early on. He cleaned their left back out after about 30 seconds, and then was just bounding about and getting in the ref's ear straight away. I mean, I love to see that, but I also don't want to see McGuinness sent off because it seems to be that he does like a red card from time to time, doesn't he, McGuinness?
Yeah,
He's
daft one as
he's
well.
had a few
Yeah.
daft red cards for us, and he has had one for Northern Ireland as well. He's a very vocal player.
Mm.
I will say that when you top of the West Stand, as I sometimes am watching, you can hear him like he's next to you. He's so loud. Him and Matt Ingram are the loudest players on the pitch. It's really obvious that he's not the captain, obviously, McGuinness, but he does much of the driving forward and encouraging and bollocking of players. He's McCann's voice on the pitch, in my eyes.
He's been asked to step up to it. He said that
Yeah,
himself, hasn't he?
so it's important that he's there, but sometimes he just does things where you're like, just leave the ref alone at this minute. Just pick your battles. Because it seemed to me like he was going to talk his way into the book straight away. I also didn't understand why Smallwood got booked for a challenge that did seem to be a little bit innocuous. But referees in League One, we're going to have to expect shit decisions, aren't we?
It was one of the things that you kind of brace yourself for when we got relegated, because I just remember how poor they were last time. I mean, the standard of refereeing in across English football, and a lot of people might say football in general, isn't fantastic. It's a difficult job, I know, but particularly in League One and Two, it sticks out in the mind as not being great.
Yep. And then just to move on to your bad before I do the next section.
Yeah, my bad was injuries, and largely injuries at centre back. I think it just shows the players that we've lost in the last few games, that how precarious your position can be in terms of your squad depth. And we are lucky at City that we do have plenty of depth at centre back, but in I think the last 3 or 4 games we have lost Alfie Jones, Reece Burke and Yordi Device to various injuries for various periods of time. All right, Reece Burke's back in the squad now, which is fortunate that his injury sustained against
It was John Joe O'Toole smashing him in the face.
Yeah.
Did break his nose?
So
is that what it was? He needed to have his nose reset, didn't he? It was bad.
Yeah,
it was bad, that one.
But Device sounds like he's going to be back on the training pitch, fairly quickly. But what was it?
Fractured eye socket.
That was it. Yeah. So that can keep you.
I don't know if he's going to wear a mask or whatever. They said they wouldn't.
Apparently, he doesn't need to.
I would be nervous though.
Exactly. Yeah, it's one of those where you think, well, you can't really.
Because it's like risking a head injury. It's the whole. It just feels a bit wrong to me. I mean, if he's well enough to play, then play him. But I also wouldn't want to see a player who's, not necessarily at full fitness, and they're playing him because they feel they're stretched at that particular position. What if he gets a clash of heads there, and he's already weakened?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a bit over dramatic about it, but you can never be too careful with head injuries.
No, and then with Alfie Jones out yesterday with a hamstring injury.
That's very disappointing.
It is because he's been playing well. Doncaster, he looked very good. Him and Jacob.
Yeah, I mean,
a good understanding.
It reminded me of Burke and Greaves because they've been very good together. But it showed, he's very versatile as well. Because if you've got an injury in midfield, Alfie Jones can just move up slightly and play defensive mid. So I like him very much as a player, Alfie Jones.
Yeah, I mean, we're lucky that we've got that depth that we can cope with it, because obviously there's McLaughlin.
McLaughlin's done nothing bad nothing wrong when he's played.
No.
I know he's had limited game time, but I think he'll probably play against Crewe in the week.
Yeah, I'd have confidence in him.
Me too, yeah.
If he was
the only thing around the Stevenage game with him was that they played him at left back and he ain't a left back. So
yeah, it didn't look comfortable, did he? No. We looked much better when Fleming came.
But I mean, then again, you got Fleming, so he can play in the centre if you wanted to. If you played Fleming instead of Elder, giving him a rest. So you're right. But
he might have an enforced rest before too long because he's still on that fourth booking.
Yeah. And I mean, particularly with one eye on the Portsmouth game, which is now on Sky, 5:30 kickoff for some reason on the Friday night. You want him to be ready for that game because they're fourth now. That'll be a big clash. But I didn't know if there was anything else you wanted to add about your with the injuries, because obviously it is a little bit of a worry. But as you say, we've got strength in depth across the field in a lot of areas.
It would worry me more if it was up top. It is disappointing though to see Callum Jones pick up an injury.
Yeah, I did see that.
It kind of stops his momentum and his progress.
Because obviously Batty was out for a little bit as well. I don't know if Batty's back in training now, but I think he was just shagged, wasn't he, from not playing for so long, and the amount of ground that they covered against Stevenage. He did play well against Stevenage, did Dan Batty?
Yeah, he did. He needed to, though.
Yeah,
those
absolutely. I think he was one of the players to come out with his head held high, to be honest. But he did do so much running, you'd be knackered after that.
Yeah.
So. Now then. Okay, so if we do the numbers.
Yeah.
Your number is?
My number's 5, which kind of ties in with your bad. I was just looking at it, and we are one of 5 teams in League One not to have been awarded a penalty in league football, which, given the number of opportunities referees have had to award as a penalty in recent weeks, is a little bit surprising, I thought.
I did have a conversation with, we've mentioned him already, Rich Fleming, Hull City Stats, about when the last time we actually had a penalty in the league was. Can you remember when it is?
It was last season, wasn't it? Obviously.
It was.
One this year.
It was.
I know we only had 2 last year. I want to say... when was it?
Well,
I think we missed it as well,
the last one that we were given, we didn't score. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was against Blackburn away.
Oh, God. I'd erased that game from my mind.
Soz. The one we scored.
Horrendous game of football that was.
The one we scored was against Preston at home when we were 4-0.
Yeah.
Those are the last 2 penalties we had in the league. Which is
that Blackburn one doesn't count.
No, because we've fucking missed it. So we've not got the best luck when it comes to the old penalties.
No.
So, I mean, there were a few. Even when I think to the back end of last season, Wilkes should have had one against, I think it was maybe West Brom. And it was just completely scythed down in the area, ignored. Lewis Potter against Wigan running forward, and then they gave the penalty and then didn't. They decided to unaward it because they said it wasn't a penalty. There's been a few
just
close...
on the edge, wasn't it?
I know. And I mean, obviously, we had a penalty against Stevenage. That was in the FA Cup, so it doesn't count. But it does seem to be an awful lot of time without a penalty, and there has been some awful, there has been some proper whoppers they've missed. I think back to Eves against Burton.
Yeah, well, that brings me on to the point I was going to make about it, and I was going to say maybe it's the lack of fans that meaning that referees are more comfortable turning penalty appeals down. I thought
maybe
the difference in the way that the referee approached the game yesterday with, a few Oxford fans in the Kassam Stadium compared to how games have been refereed without fans in. I did think that they played a little part. All right, the atmosphere was a little muted because of distancing and whatever.
I think you'd go a step further and say that the crowd effectively refereed it for him.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to go that far, but I mean, I think there's a case for it.
Yeah.
But I would be interested, some of the penalty appeals that we've had turned down in recent weeks, if we'd had, it's not going to be a full KC, even, in a pre-pandemic era because of everything that's gone on.
Yeah.
But I would be interested to see whether or not we got 1 or 2 of them, put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, there's a regular listener who I interact with quite a lot on Twitter who talks about this. Stu Wallace is called. His son actually plays for the under-18s, Harry Wallace.
Right.
He's played for. He's been in the squad for the under-23s a few games as well, so he's doing quite well. But he's quite funny on Twitter. He's very positive about City, and he was kind of saying things like he said, "Smarten up, City. Geez, we've still not really started, and these 1,000 fans are proper intimidating. This ref, it's scary." But then later on, he put, this was great as well. He's put, was all right that eventually KLP starts next game without a doubt. Could have nicked it on another day, and they're a better side than their league position suggests about Oxford.
I'd agree with that.
Anyways, UTT. One thing I will say is it didn't like their manager's mannerisms. Tracksuit zipped up to the chin, strutting around with his feet at 10-2. And he just put big time. or thinks he's big time.
Yeah.
Did make me laugh.
Do you know who I am? I used to manage MK Dons.
That's it, yeah. You're like you Carl Robinson, for God's sake.
Wasn't there a City book that was written once? It was in the wake of the promotion to the Premier League for the first time, and I can't remember the name of the author. I think he owns a DIY shop on Chance, and he criticised Phil Parkinson for his manner on the touchline and the fact that he was always wearing a tracksuit. It's always stuck out to me as a funny thing to criticise a manager for.
It's a bit odd, but yeah, it did make me laugh anyway.
I can remember being, as just a quick aside, being outside Welly one night, kind of at kicking out time, and me and our mate Ross saw this lad who was throwing up outside Al Pacino's pizza shop. He was being really sick, and we went up to him, being a pair of daft twats. We were like, "Oh, you've been sick. You've been sick, aren't you? Because you can't stand the sight of Phil Parkinson in a tracksuit on the touchline." So you like Phil Brown, don't you? He's a much more presentable manager. He's wearing a suit and his nice tan shoes. So you get it all up. It's all better now. Parkinson's gone.
He's just
he was throwing up and going like, "I don't even like football."
What are you talking about? Leave me alone. I feel like I'm gonna die. Great stuff, indeed. Anyway, yeah, we don't get penalties. Moving on.
To sum up, number was 5. We don't get penalties.
Sum up, no penalties in the league, and nobody likes us. Who's the ref? So no ref like us. Mine was 15, which is a slightly more positive one, and that's how it's a goal difference for this season in the league. It means that we've got the best goal difference in the entire league. So we haven't scored the most goals or conceded the least, but I do think that particularly if you've got teams like Lincoln, who seem to be surprising me this season and just grinding out those wins. They like a 1-0 win to Lincoln, don't they?
Yeah.
There's been an awful lot of those. But yeah, I mean, best goal difference in the league after, 15 games we've had? 15, 16 games? It's
15.
We're good going forward, but we could be better. I will add that. Mm-hmm. I think we definitely could be better. We need some, bit more consistency with the taking chances. We've scored in the last 15 games anyway, but we've scored every single league game this year.
We're only one shy of Portsmouth for the division's top scorers.
Yeah, we've scored 27. They've scored 28. And we've conceded 12, they've conceded 15. So they're similar record to us.
Yeah.
And they beat Peterborough yesterday, whose form is dipping alarmingly, which is quite good to see. But yeah, Lincoln have won the last 3, and we play them very soon, just after Christmas.
We do, yeah.
29th, at home as well, so that'll be a massive game to look forward to. Highly doubt we'll be out of Tier 3, but you never know. I don't know when they review all of the tier information, because I know the cases are going down in this area, but if it goes down enough to let us have 1,000 fans in, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I think it's the 16th they're going to review it. But
right, well, that'll just be before the Portsmouth game then.
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath.
No, I definitely wouldn't be either, but I mean, it's nice to see. I've watched highlights of other games, and it is nice to see, actual fans being back and no fake crowd noise and stuff like that. I thought Chelsea...
Yeah, I mean, I watched Chelsea's game last night.
I did. I thought Chelsea were quite loud, and they did make me laugh with the... I forgot, who was it who came on for them after the hilariously named Cock went off? He was squealing in pain. Old Chelsea started doing like squeals whenever he touched the ball.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. I want to call him J Tab, but that's just because of the Coventry player that did it that time at the KC.
It was number 14 anyway for Leeds. I can't remember his name. Listen, I don't care about Leeds, but it was just funny to see. He went down in a challenge and they all started mimicking him. It was always like. I always loved it when we was away and the home team would shout handball for something that wasn't, and every single pass for about 10 minutes after we'd just scream handball.
Yeah, it got a bit played out by the end, but it was good fun to start with.
It was always good fun, that. It does remind me of the time we went to, I don't know if you I'm sure you must have been there. I don't know if I saw you there though. I didn't go with you. I went with my brother-in-law to be, where we went to Nottingham Forest away and won 2-1 with Paul McShane scoring with his hand. The ultimate shithouse.
Oh, yeah.
It was brilliant. Because they were just screaming handball, and it would be like, handball! Oh! As soon as you had the goalkeeper running up to take the kick, handball! I miss all that. I really miss all that. So it's nice to see it back in grounds a little bit. I just don't know how long it'll be before City get to do that as well.
Don't know. I mean, the reckon vaccine rollout might take a year, so everybody in the country. But the more people in the what's the word I'm looking for? The more people in the kind of more fragile areas of society that receive the vaccine, probably the more that people like ourselves who are, in an age where it doesn't really affect you as badly, will be able to go out and do more normal things. So hopefully that day is coming.
Yeah, it's certainly a much more positive picture than it would have been towards the end of last season, because you never thought you'd see fans back in the ground within 12 months or so. But at least there's progress with that, which is good.
And we're top of the bloody league.
And we're top of the bloody league by 2 points. Even if we'd have lost yesterday, we would still have been top, which I did want to try and turn it something where even if we got an awful result into a positive, that'd have been what I've gone with. But obviously we got a point, and that was our first draw of the season in the league as well, wasn't it? So, but yeah, I mean, the next thing to look at is there's a couple of games coming up. We've got...
Yeah, how did you want to do this? Did you want to just talk about Crewe and then we'll get back on the usual midweek route?
Schedule. I thought we would do that.
That's fine with me.
Because obviously it'll be it's Shrewsbury at home, isn't it? The game after that, and that's a normal style kickoff 3 p.m. Saturday. So we'll be able to preview that. I think.
Yeah, we'll leave that one off.
Yeah, okay. But Crewe. Now I was looking at some stuff to do with our opponents earlier on, and I noticed that Perry NG, is he called, got a 6-game ban. I don't know how you say. Is it Ng? I don't know how you say it, because it's a bizarre.
I'm fairly sure it'd be something like Ng. I don't think it was NG.
I know it's spelled NG, but anyway, Ng got a 6-game ban for spitting.
Did he?
He did.
Dirty bastard.
I know, isn't it? It said, it's a very, very short article, but it said that his captain as well has been banned for 6 bans for spitting at an opponent against Cheltenham when they lost in the FA Cup. And he spat water at Robins coach Wade Elliott after the final whistle of the game last week.
So it's not like he's gobbed it in then?
No, he had a gob full of water and he's flagged it towards the coach, which still, I mean, you can't do.
It's still disgusting. But...
It's not like he's, Rudy Voller and Rude Hullet, where Rude Hullet's just like gozzed in his hair. It's not like that, but it's still not acceptable. We'll say that. No. It was not seen by match officials, but was recorded on video. He's played in every single league game for Crewe this season, and now he will not feature until after Christmas. It consisted that the ban was clearly excessive, but the Independent Regulatory Commission ruled that the ban should be applied. He is available against us, though.
Is he?
Because it's league bans, apparently.
Well, as long as he keeps his mouth shut.
He's the right back, isn't he? I remember that name for when we played before. I mean, for the amount of times that people were saying, "Oh, well, that's an easy draw," I don't think it is. I think this will be a very tricky game for us. I think McCann will make changes, not too many, but I still think he will make some. But I
think after naming an unchanged team against Oxford as well, he should make changes, because I did wonder if that was one of the reasons why they looked so slow out of the gates, was because they had a tough game in midweek.
Yeah, it took a lot out of them because it was a local derby,
and it was obviously all games are 90 minutes, but they had to go to the end to win it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. They've put a few results together, Crewe, recently. They beat Swindon 4-2 at home in the last week. They drew to Burton yesterday, but they've also lost to Accrington Stanley, who seem to be on some kind of run. Lost to Portsmouth, but then beat Peterborough, as well as beating Oxford United. So they're no mugs by any stretch of the imagination. I just don't know how much their coach will prioritise this. I mean, they're banging mid-table. They've won 2, lost 2, and drawn 1 of the last 5. So they're in indifferent form, but they were very difficult to break down, as I remember.
Yeah, I mean, we saw when we played them that they're a decent outfit.
They were very well organised, and they don't just lump. Do they? They definitely try and play it on the deck.
They did cause us problems. It would be all right for us now, because you tend to forget games. You get 3 or 4 in between them, and it's like
merge into one.
The details kind of get a bit hazy, don't they? But
they do. Yeah,
it's easy to forget that they did give us a game early in the season.
I mean, it was the Thomas Meyer assist for the Malik Wilkes header, if we remember that. That was the game, wasn't it?
Feels like a long time ago now.
It really does. I think it was the 4th or 5th game of the league.
Yeah, it was
right back in September or October. So, I mean, what are your thoughts going into it? It's a one-off game, and I guess it goes straight to penalties because that's how it works with that. It's the last 32, so I don't know. Will you be too disappointed if we don't go through, or is it something that McCann should now sort of take more seriously than he maybe was doing?
No, I don't think so. I don't think you change your approach to it.
Yeah,
we are doing what we need to do this season. I think the only thing is, with having gone out of the FA Cup early and obviously now out of the League Cup, is that the Papa John's Trophy does afford us the opportunity to get competitive minutes into players who are on the periphery, and it also allows you to keep assessing what they can do for you without having to throw them into games where there's more on it.
Yeah.
So we can keep having a look at the likes of Thomas Meyer and Martin Samuelson,
James Scott.
You can begin to feel those players out a little bit more as to what they can contribute. Whereas if, let's say, we got an injury in the wide areas and it's like we needed to chuck Meyer in or something like that, you'd still be a little bit uncertain of what he could do for you, what you could ask of him, or whether or not he's capable physically with the lack of game time that he's had. So that's the only thing at the moment I think that
it serves a purpose for.
Yeah, it does. But then, having said that, obviously when you're talking about a competition's biggest advantage for you being that it allows you to use your squad, then if you go out of it,
it's no great shame. But
no,
I think I agree with you. I just, once you get to the final stage of a competition, I think it feels worse when you do go out. But maybe just to keep it in perspective and think, well, it's Papa John's Mega Trophy, so.
Yeah, it's one of them, isn't it? It's like if you end up doing well in it and we get to the final and win it, we can suddenly start, launching other ships other than the HMS Pista League. We'll have a fleet like the HMS Pista Cup as well.
Indeed, HMS Pista Cup, Papa John's Trophy, piss it.
Yeah, you can start to kind of make a joke of it, the fact that you won it, but I don't think anybody would take it seriously.
No. So I think there'll be changes. I'll be interesting to see how we get on.
I'm interested to see what their approach to it is.
I am as well, because I think that they'll probably be a mid-table side. They're a decent outfit. They're not no mugs by any stretch, but maybe they'll see it as a way to go, right, well, this lot will want to concentrate on the league. We want to get to Wembley, don't we, lads?
You say they're solidly mid-table, but they're only 5 points above the relegation zone, and Oxford have got a game on them. So,
yeah, it's always, particularly at this early stage, it's still quite early. We're not even at 15, 16 games, aren't we? We are. There's still. You can see how close some of the leagues are. Even when you look at the Premiership, there's Man United went from the bottom half of the table up to 5th yesterday with 1 win. So it'll be the same down in League One. There's 2-3 teams on 11 points, right at the bottom.
Yeah,
and Shrewsbury have only lost 1 of 5, but they've drawn all of them because they keep conceding. That'll be something I'm sure we talk about in the week when we look at the Shrewsbury game coming up. But, we'll see what their approach is. I'm just hoping for another City win, obviously. But we'll go from there. There was one thing I was going to just give you some info about, mate, before we probably wrap the chat up, and that's with the anchor stats that we've got. There's been a few new countries added to our listeners list.
All right.
It isn't Chad. Before you,
shame.
I know. So the top 5 countries listened is obviously the UK, the US, and then underneath that is Ireland at number 3, and Norway, and then Australia. So they're our top 5. Obviously, the rest of them haven't changed. There has been some additions there. There's now Iceland, Colombia, and the last one is Saudi Arabia.
Oh, okay.
So we are getting that's up to 24 countries we're in now. So
Colombia, Rene Higuita is a tiger.
It must be. Yeah. So, well, I thought it'd be interesting for you to know. Obviously, we've got countries like Canada and New Zealand and all the ones you'd kind of expect expat cities, fans to be in. But then there's like Brazil, Turkey, Cambodia, India, Vietnam, Bolivia. There's just tigers worldwide. Tigers everywhere. So
They're just not in the wild where they should be.
Absolutely. So, and if there's anything else you wanted to talk about as part of AOB, but
I don't know. I was pleased to see that the Premier League and the AFL have finally agreed a rescue package this week.
Yes, I know it was reorganised from what it originally was, because it wasn't going to be that much, was it?
No.
I think there is a little bit of a thing with that where if you need the money, then you're not going to be able to buy any players.
Yeah, I think that was purely aimed at Championship clubs, wasn't it?
Right.
Where they're not going to be able to pay out massive transfer fees if they're applying for these grants. I think that they're being awarded on a more judicial kind of basis, whereas in League One and League Two, it seems like clubs are being automatically granted them.
Yeah, well, I mean, with the salary cap with League 1 and 2, it's probably a bit easier to decide what people should get.
So League One clubs are receiving a minimum payment of £375,000, whereas in League Two it's £250,000.
Yeah, really, it's relative to the level you're at, I guess, which is fair enough.
And then the remaining 15 million, once all that's been accounted for, is distributed using a lost gate revenue share calculation.
Yeah.
So there is scope to think that we would receive, significantly more on that basis than, say, Fleetwood might.
Yeah. Well, it goes on the Saudi Stadium, and I would suggest that if this wasn't the pandemic and fans were allowed in, I think the attendances would be pretty bloody good at the minute.
Yeah, you think so?
Because I know there's always going to be people who stay away for various reasons.
They didn't go up to the levels that I thought they would go up to when we were doing all right in the early part of last season. So, it took Chelsea to turn up in the cup for anybody to really have any.
It was like 23,000, wasn't it?
24, I think.
Yeah,
big attendance.
I remember it sold out. It sold out, didn't it? I think because.
Yeah, there was a lot of buzz about it. I remember
there was,
people asking me if I could get them tickets and stuff, and it's like,
you've never asked
me.
A
season ticket.
You haven't asked me for ages.
I don't have any stroke whatsoever. I've just got a season ticket.
Yeah, I do think though that particularly over Christmas, you imagine that Lincoln game if we're first and they're second still.
Yeah,
it would have had a big gate. Are you talking 15 at least? I would have thought, but
it wouldn't be hard to shift that, would it?
No.
Being a local derby as well,
exactly.
It'd be spoiled for everyone by being a lunchtime kickoff.
Probably, 12:30 or something stupid.
Yeah,
but still, I would like to think that if we were in these current times, we would be getting a fair few people through the gates. But we'll have to see how that develops. So I think that was all we wanted to cover this week, wasn't
it? Yeah. Kind of squeeze 3 games in there, but like you say, sometimes real life gets in the way.
It does.
It did this week.
It does. So apologise for that, but still, we'll meet again this coming week after the Crewe game and have a chat.
Yeah,
and
we'll talk about how the young boys and the stiffs get on.
Indeed. And just Forza Tigers, I think.
Come on, Papa John's Mega Cup.
Let's have it. Speak soon, mate.
See you in a bit.